You're here and you're ready, but also you're in my chair, so maybe move. You're in my chair. Take me down to the Paradise City. What do we need for Paradise City? What do we need? We need two things for Paradise City. What do we need? We need pretty girls. What else do we need? We need grass. That's a normal color for grass. Take me down to the Paradise City where the grass is green and the girls are pretty. Two requirements. Two requirements for Paradise City. Pretty girls. Grass that is a normal color for grass. Green grass. Grass is green. We need the grass to be green. We need the girls to be pretty. And that's literally all we need for Paradise City. Take me home. Yes. What's up, everybody? It is episode, I don't even know what episode it is. It's like a 65 or a 66. It's somewhere in that range. Girl Kevin is here because Girl Kevin has established herself as the new co-host of the show. It used to be Boy Kevin. For some reason, he's not interested in being on camera anymore. I don't know, like, if his, contract expired and we had a contract I wasn't aware of. I don't know if his, union rep got involved. I'm not really sure, but he doesn't show up anymore. Girl Kevin, Girl Kevin, I'm just talking about how good you are and how not good Boy Kevin is. Come here. While I get Girl Kevin back, can we show Gort? He's my new best friend. There's Gort. For audio listeners, Gort is a small frog. And I love him and I'll die for him. Anyway, Girl Kevin's here. Oh my gosh. She's great. And let me tell you, I have a new endeavor. I have a new dream. I'm going to create a Josie and the Pussycats tribute band. Do you guys remember this movie? You know what? This was one of those movies that was a critical flop. It was not successful. I think it lost a lot of money. People were like, this movie is bad. But for those who actually watched it and understood what they were trying to do, this movie is genius, right? This is one of those early 2000s, kind of teen movies, sort of it's a musical, but it's kind of not. The music was amazing, by the way. It had amazing music, and it was Rachel Lee Cook and Tara Reid and Rosario Dawson, and Alan Cumming, and they totally killed it. This movie's amazing. And if you go back and watch it, you'll see so much product placement. And that was on purpose. So instead of staying away from product placement, the director of this movie is like, I'm going to go so far the other direction. And that's why they're constantly talking about Big Macs and they're showing Target logos and just everything. The whole movie is so saturated with product placement. And it was on purpose. And then you have the boy band in the movie called De Jour around the world. And they sing Backdoor Lover. And as a kid, I didn't understand what that was trying to imply. And I sang it probably way too much in front of my parents. Probably way too much. But I was still too young where they're like, we can't tell her not to sing it. But she doesn't know what it means. She literally just thinks that this song called Backdoor Lover is about you have a crush on this guy and then he comes to call upon you and he goes to your back door and he sneaks in through the screen door at the back of your house and then he comes in and then, you guys hang out and watch a movie, right? As a kid, I'm like, that's what that means. We're not going to go further because it's a family podcast. It's episode 65 or 66. I'm not sure. But hey, guys, thank you for coming back. I'm having a great hair day. And that's really unfortunate for the audio listeners that you're not getting to see that. But it's voluminous. Is that a word? And it's got body, right? My hair's got body. Such a weird thing to say about hair. But anyway, I want to start a Josie and the... Can I start again? I want to start... You want to try? Okay. I want to start a Josie and the Pussycats tribute band where I play Josie and then I get a blonde drummer and just a super sassy, amazing bass player with that curly hair that Rosario has. And I want to open for the Spice Girls here in Vegas. There's a Spice Girls tribute band and they're great. And I want to open for them as Josie and the Pussycats. Anyway, this harebrained scheme brought to you by Lisa Foyles, who constantly has them. Yeah, That's just a new idea that I had that I'm just going to float. I'm going to float it, see how you guys respond to that. Today, I have decided right now what I want to talk about. And the thing that I want to talk about is bands that sound like other bands. And are we good with that, or are we not good with that? And I'll tell you where this came from. Hold on. Can you show Gort while I clear my sinuses real quick? There's Gort. He's a frog. Take me down to the paradise where the grass is green and the girls are pretty. Okay, so bands that sound like other bands. And the reason I bring this up is I was hanging out with my friend Nathan the other day, and he mentioned Greta Van Fleet. And I was like, I like Greta Van Fleet. And he's like, I don't. He's like, they're just a Led Zeppelin ripoff. And I was like, yes, you're right. They're nearly a Led Zeppelin tribute band. They sound that much like Led Zeppelin. And they do try to have their own vibe going on. And I'll admit that I haven't listened to their whole catalog. I've only listened to like 3 or 4 songs. But I will say, that's Led Zeppelin. You hear it and you're like, that's Led Zeppelin. But it's like these young kids, right? They're like teenagers or like early 20s or something like that. And they've been able to capture the beautiful sound of Led Zeppelin. Like everything from the vocals to the guitars, just the feel of the song, just the lyrics, like everything about it is like, that's Led Zeppelin. What are you doing? That's Led Zeppelin. You're not an original band. You're a Led Zeppelin tribute band. But I got to tell you, I don't hate it, right? I think it's amazing, first of all. Like, I love the fact that you have these young kids and they're musicians and they started a band, and instead of being like, you know, hey, we could be One Direction and be like, didn't light up my world like nobody else. Did your round the world backdoor lover. Instead of going full bull band, good. Instead of going full boy band route, they're like, we're real musicians. I can't talk today. We're real musicians, and we're going to sound like we're from the 60s and 70s. And they did a great job. So I respect the musical talent of these kids. And it had me thinking, like, okay, there's a lot of bands that sound like other bands. And is that a good thing or a bad thing? Some examples are, people said that Ozma sounded a lot like Weezer. People criticized Nirvana and Bush for like sounding very similar, which I don't know. I'm not really on board with that one. Nirvana is much more like angstier and has something to say politically, and Bush a little more just like, I don't want to come back down from this cloud. Like, they're in the sky, right? We don't need to bother Bush. They're in the sky. Just stay up there, dude. You don't want to come down from your cloud? Don't do it. Stay up in your cloud. Just trust me. This was years ago. 2020's coming, the pandemic, everything, presidential controversy. Just, there's lots going on. There's murder hornets, which thankfully have been eradicated, but there's murder hornets. There's lots happening. Just stay in your cloud. Was that 90s, 2000s? I'm not really sure when that song came out, but I think Gavin Rossdale just should have stayed. He should have stayed in his cloud. But anyway, another big example of this is, I don't know if anybody's familiar with Foxy Shazam. He's one of those artists that I used to listen to in Portland, where I was just surrounded by buddies who had awesome taste in weird music. And we'd always just listen to weird stuff. Like, they turned me on to the Shins and the Decemberists and Pink Martini and just, you know, all these kind of like Cake, like at the time, very like offbeat bands. And they turned me on to Foxy Shazam, just this amazing. He's Freddie Mercury. He's Freddie Mercury, and his songs sound like Queen. And the same could be said for Mika. Do you remember that song? What's it called? Grace Kelly? I could be brown, I could be blue, I could be violet sky, I could be up. He goes so high. Yeah, no, that song's great. But like, you listen to it and you're like, oh, that's Freddie Mercury. That's Queen. But I got to tell you, I loved that song. And I love Foxy Shazam. There's that part of me that doesn't even really care that it's such a blatant ripoff, right? So you wonder if like, what is our loyalty to these artists, right? You like grow up listening to Led Zeppelin, like you love the sound. You're like, you feel some kind of allegiance to the band. You've never met them. Led Zeppelin doesn't know you exist. They don't know that you're even listening to them. My stomach is growling so loud. I'm sorry if that's being picked up on the mic. Led Zeppelin has no idea that you exist. Freddie Mercury had no idea that you exist. Like they don't. These bands don't know that you exist. So you, as a listener, feel an allegiance to artists and bands because there's something about their art that speaks to you, right? They say the best songs don't tell you something about the artist. They tell you something about yourself. And I try to remember that when I create art and I'm writing music. I'm like, I'm not trying to, yes, I want to express myself, but I want to do it in a way that's very relatable because I'm not trying to tell the audience something about me. I'm trying to tell them something about them. And that's getting real in the weeds and that's all like artsy fartsy and all that stuff. And that's fine. But it begs the question, say you're listening to Greta Van Fleet. Is there like a guilt that you feel listening to this band that sounds so much like Led Zeppelin, who you've loved for so many years? Why do you feel such a strong allegiance to be like, you're not Led Zeppelin, you're a ripoff? Or can you just accept the fact that it fills a void in your mind, that you love that type of music and you love that sound, and maybe Led Zeppelin isn't creating the new music that sounds like the old stuff, but this band is. Why can't you love them just as much, right? Without the guilt, right? It's just very interesting. I don't really have a strong opinion one way or the other, because I definitely have found myself screaming at my radio saying, you're just ripping off another artist. Like, what are you doing? Be original. I found myself doing that. I'm guilty. I'm definitely guilty of that. I think that I've talked about an example is when Muse came out with a song recently that's called The Will of the People. And in the song, they literally sing, the will of the people, the will of the people. And I'm like, oh, have you heard about Marilyn Manson? Have you heard Marilyn Manson? He has a very famous song called The Beautiful People, The Beautiful People. I'm like, it's the same cadence. It's nearly the same lyrics. You're singing it the same. What are you doing? It's already been done by a very famous artist. Muse is very famous. Marilyn Manson is very famous. Why are you doing this? Right? And I've screamed at my radio, you're just a ripoff. But I'm not going to lie, I like the song. Like, I like the Will of the People song, and I like Muse, and I like their style, and I like what they're doing. So maybe it's okay that I like both. And I think in this day and age, this is kind of speaking to any artist out there. I feel like everybody has a creative vein in their body, right? Everybody's a little bit creative, whether that's your entire career or just something you like to do on the side. Whether you're selling rat bone tiaras on Etsy or whether you're writing songs, like whatever you want to do, everybody kind of has a little bit of creativity that they have to get out in some capacity, and some more than others. And I got to say, we live in a crazy world with so much AI and so much access to other people's art all over the world that nothing is original anymore. It's not. Like, you can dive so deep into your soul and pick something that you think is the most original piece of art, the most original song lyric, whatever it is. It's already been done. It's already been done. That's the world we live in, right? When Elvis was releasing songs, when the Beatles were releasing songs, when all of these old classic artists were releasing songs, they were like the first ones to create a sound or reach people with these lyrics. Right? They were trailblazers, not because they were the only ones to ever do it, but it was our only access. But now we have access to literally everyone. Everyone has a phone. Everyone's posting on TikTok. Everyone's posting on Instagram. So as an artist, it does feel very overwhelming that nothing's original, right? Everything that you come up with will have already been done. My entire podcast last week was about how I was sitting in the movie theater watching Nosferatu. And the only thing I could think of for the first 10 minutes was an Australian person watching the movie saying, Nosferatu. And it just, to me, it was a completely original thought. I thought it was super funny. I told you guys about it. Yesterday, I opened up Instagram and there was a screenshot of a tweet from somebody. And it literally said, like, in an Australian voice, Nosferatu. And it had like 50,000 likes and like 20,000 shares. So I'm like, I didn't even see that. That didn't even occur to me. But now, depending on which one you saw first, you're going to say, oh, one person's stealing from the other. Oh, Lisa stole that joke from that tweet, or that tweet stole that joke from Lisa. Whatever. What I'm saying is that we both had that same thought, me and whoever wrote the tweet. We both had that same thought, and we put it on the internet. And it can be very discouraging for artists. I know that I've really suffered from this. And I'll tell you, the best example of this was when I wrote my book. I've always wanted to write a novel for a middle grade audience because I really attribute middle grade fiction novels, fantasy novels in particular, to me becoming an actor and an artist. I used to go to Barnes & Noble. I used to just look at all of the books for my age range, that kind of middle grade audience, and, ages 10, 11, 12, and anything that had a dragon on it or a castle or a princess or a phoenix. I mean, just any kind of like mythical, magical creature. I instantly would just buy the book and read it. I didn't even read the description on the back. I'm just like, this is going to appeal to my interests. I really like this. And I read so many of those books as a kid, and it really just sparked my imagination, that I really feel like that's what turned me into an actor and an artist. And for years, I felt like I wanted to pay that forward. And I wanted to write my own middle grade novel, fantasy novel, for that age range. And I did. And it took me a long time. It took me maybe 2 years from beginning to end, maybe even longer, from when the initial concept hit my mind and, writing it, revising it, going through the editor, going through that process, getting it published, having a publishing deal fall through, getting another one, having that one fall through, getting another one. The whole thing took so long. But I was really proud of myself for doing it. But I got to tell you, I had this massive anxiety during the process that every concept I was coming up with and my story in general had already been done. Like it was crippling, actually. It was crippling because I'd be halfway through writing my novel, and then I'd go to Barnes and Noble and I'd see a book that just came out that was very similar to my story. And it crushed me. I'm like, oh no, it's already been done. The truth of the matter is, my story is not really that original, right? It's Harry Potter meets Pokemon. It's a story about a young girl who bonds to a magical creature, a phoenix, and then she's whisked away to an academy where kids are bonded to magical creatures, and they have to learn how to care for them, and they can battle, and they can adopt kind of magical attributes from their creature and vice versa. And it's just like I created this whole world in my mind. But it's, there are a lot of scenes in my book that parallel Harry Potter scenes, even though I hadn't even read all the books. And there are a lot of concepts in my book that parallel concepts in a lot of other books. It's that fine line between you want it to be original, but not so weird that it doesn't apply or it doesn't appeal to a mainstream audience. That's the challenge, right? You want it to be familiar and relatable enough that kids who are like, I like fantasy stories about dragons. This has got a dragon. I want that. So you want it to have familiar concepts, but you also, don't want it to be derivative. You want it to be original. So I really had a problem when I was writing my book. I was pouring my whole heart into it. And then right before it was released, the Harry Potter spinoffs were being announced, the Fantastical Beasts and Where to Find Them. And in my mind, I'm like, oh my gosh, my whole book is about fantastical beasts. People are going to think I'm ripping off this concept. People aren't going to want to read mine because they have this. And it honestly crippled me. I think a couple times I cried, honestly. Like, that's how much as an artist I was feeling the weight of, like, I didn't want to be accused of copying somebody else's art. And it's now more than ever. It's now more than ever. More than ever, no one has an original idea. There's no original ideas, but your brain is original. And that's what I've come to understand. Is that you're never going to be original, but your brain is original. So the things that you come up with based on your personal experience, nobody else has those. So just proceed with your art. Just do what you want to do. Write your story, write your screenplay. It actually doesn't matter if it's been done before, because the way you do it will be different than the way somebody else does it. It may be similar. It may be very similar. But it's not going to be your story and your art. And even more so now. This happened again when I had this awesome screenplay about, it was like a rom-com set in Ireland, and everybody who read it absolutely loved it, and we got really close to making it. But then near the, hey, we're going to actually do this phase, a Lindsay Lohan rom-com set in Ireland came out on Netflix. And instantly I was like, oh, nobody's going to care about mine then. That just came out. It's got Lindsay Lohan. Great. But the truth of the matter is, because there's so many streaming services, they kind of all want what's hot, right? So it's almost good to have art that's similar to art that's popular at the time. Do you remember when Twilight came out? Once Twilight came out, everybody wanted vampire shit. Oh, you got something vampire? I'm in. Turns out the executives only care about money. People who run businesses, TV, film, literary departments, they only care about money. So if vampires are hot, they want everything vampires. Doesn't matter if your story is exactly like the one that just came out. Doesn't matter if the story you're pitching to Hulu just came out on Netflix. Hulu's like, thank God, we have a competitor. People go to Netflix, they watch that Ireland movie. Finally, we have one to offer them as well. You know? And that took a really long time for me to accept and understand, because I always just, especially as an artist, you just want to be original. You don't ever want to be accused of copying. You just want to come up with something that people have never heard of before, never seen before, and inspire them. So sometimes it does hurt if whatever you've come up with instantly, like, oh, somebody else just did that, you know? So I don't know. That's just my message to artists out there, is that, you know, there's no original art, but your brain is original. So just write your story and don't worry about what other people are doing, or if somebody's done something similar, just create your story. Yeah, that was a very long tangent I went on, and I don't know, maybe that inspires you, maybe it doesn't. Where am I on time? Where am I on time? Oh, okay. Yeah, I rambled for a while about that. But anyway, if you want to read my story, or if you have a kid who's super into the first Harry Potter book, the one where it was still a little more innocent before it got like dark, like we just watched all the Harry Potter movies, and we're going through the books now. I forgot the body count in that story. Man, they kill off a lot of people. A lot of people die in the Harry Potter universe. I'm watching that last movie with my 6-year-old, and they're like carrying people off on stretchers at the end of the Hogwarts battle, and I'm like, they're sleeping, Calvin. They're just sleeping. They're gonna be okay. Dude, it's intense, but I love that. I love that they went that deep, and that it started very cute and innocent, and then it just got darker and darker and darker. I love that. But the innocence and the whimsy of the first Harry Potter book, if you have a kid who's into that, you should pick up my book. Do I have it on display over here? I don't, but it's called Ash, Ridley, and the Phoenix. And like I said, it's kind of Harry Potter meets Pokemon, but it was very important to me that my lead character, Ash, was not a chosen one. Right? I feel like there's especially, Harry Potter, especially Percy Jackson. There's a lot of these stories for young kids where like the main character is born special. They're born special. They're the chosen one. They're going to save the world. It was very important to me that Ash was not the chosen one. And she's just a normal girl, right? Came from she's like a peasant girl, she's swept into this very wealthy environment, but she herself is not the chosen one, right? And she's got to kind of deal with that throughout the story. But anyway, that was just my, that's how I wrote it as an author, and I hope you guys enjoy it. But you can get it on Amazon. If you get a copy and you want me to sign it, you should DM me. We can figure that out. Because I do like signing people's books, because I am very proud of it. I'm proud of that accomplishment. I would love to write a sequel if people want it. I don't know that the want and need is there. It came out during the pandemic, and that was kind of tough because I was supposed to have a book tour and supposed to promote it, and it didn't happen. It all kind of fell through. But it's all good. There were bigger concerns during the pandemic than advertising my book. It's all good. But it's great. Anyway, I only have a few minutes here, but I'm going to tell an all that story. So one of the healthiest things for me in life is to have friends who don't really know anything about my past, because my past defines me so much, but also I can get so wrapped up in it that I kind of lose sense of reality. And what I mean by that is that I had a very weird childhood. I was a child actor. I was on all that on Nickelodeon for years. I mean, I started in TV when I was, 12? And then even before that, I was always on stage. I was doing theater. I was doing dance competitions. I was homeschooled. So already I just had a very weird childhood. It was all about performing, constantly in front of people, audiences, cameras, the world, just constantly on display. And I loved it. But also, there's a lot of childhood experiences that I missed out on because of that. And there's a lot of times where, even just the other day, I had a random breakdown about a role that I lost out on in my teens that would have skyrocketed me to fame. I came so close, you guys. And I've hinted about this role and several others in the past. I'm not actually going to tell you what it is because I just don't need that. But I don't need that to be out there. But there's a couple roles where I came so close. I should have booked it. A couple I did book and then it was taken away from me. Should have booked it. Runner up. It would have just skyrocketed me. It would have been a huge paycheck. It would have been really, really good for my career. And it didn't work out. And one of them especially sent me into such a depression. Really, the only time I've ever experienced real depression was after this one in particular, this role that I wanted so badly and I should have gotten and I didn't. I basically moved away from LA, moved to Portland, lived by myself. It was still just this this dark cloud that hung over me, that I was so close to a big dream of mine and I didn't achieve it. That the healthiest thing to happen to me was sort of getting adopted by this group of friends who just didn't give a crap. They didn't care. They'd never seen a single episode of all that. They didn't even know the movie I was talking about when I said I missed out on this huge opportunity. They were like, I don't even know what that is, right? So much of my life that I had put so much stock into, they didn't even know what it was. And they didn't care. They only wanted to hang out with me because they liked me as a person. And we had fun and we played video games and we did silly things around Portland. They didn't care that I was on TV. They didn't care. They'd never even seen me on TV. And at that point in my life, early 20s, it was really important to have that group of friends that grounded me and just brought me back to reality, right? And those type of things are still important to me. So even now, like my band, right? I'm in a band. I have other musicians that I'm friends with. Most of them have never seen an episode of all that. Most of them don't really care at all. like about my past. They just like me for me. And one of these people is our guitarist Nathan from Von Bolt. He's never seen an episode. He's never seen all that. He's not online at all. He's completely off the grid. In fact, me talking about him right now is probably the most on the grid he's ever been. And he's probably not okay with it. He's like, can you just bleep that whole thing? But he just has no idea that I've ever even been on TV or in a movie. He doesn't care. However, he was talking about Tom Green recently. And I was like, yeah, I know Tom. I met Tom Green. And he's like, what? And I was like, yeah, he was a guest on my show. And he's like, what are you talking about? So I kind of told him the story. And it was the first time that he ever actually went on YouTube and looked up a scene from all that and saw me on TV because he wanted to see the Tom Green thing. And he was like, it was so funny. And I'm like, okay, I think that's worth talking about. So basically, Tom Green, incredible comedian, very offbeat human, super weird, right? He was a guest star on All That in the sketch first it was Slumber Party, where I played Claudia, the goth girl. And it was a sketch where it was Claudia's room. We got to see Claudia's room for the first time. We were always in Bridget's room, but for once we got to see Claudia in her goth room with her bed of nails and her voodoo dolls.
Are there any hot guys in your neighborhood?
There was one.
Well, what happened to him?
What are you, a cop?
And during the scene, I had a voodoo doll and I threw it. The voodoo doll looked like a mummy. And I threw the voodoo doll. And then all of a sudden, an actual mummy comes somersaulting through my window onto the floor, like just entered chaotically, like Kramer. And then he proceeded to destroy my whole room. And that was Tom Green. And I think Giovanni's character, Gail, was like, hey, look, it's professional comedian Tom Green. And he's like, yes, I'm a professional comedian.
That's right. I'm a professional comedian. But I'm also a mummy.
He's so good. And he just ad-libbed. Like, they just left the cameras rolling. He didn't stick to the script. He did all sorts of crazy things. At one point, he was doing a dance with underpants. He was crashing into the set, breaking things left and right. And it's the only time as Claudia that I broke character. I was so good about never smiling and never laughing when I played Claudia, the goth girl. It was like my superpower. Like, if I'm Claudia, you can't break me. Tom Green broke me. He's the only one who could, because he was just so weird and strange and funny and silly that I just couldn't. And I didn't know what was coming next. I love people where you just don't know the next thing that's going to come out of their mouth. You just have no idea. And also he had chugged like 5 Red Bulls before he got on set. I remember he was just kind of pacing in the green room, kind of like looking over his lines or just kind of just being Tom Green and looking at the trash can near him. And it had like 4 or 5 empty Red Bull cans. I'm like, how are you alive? But anyway, the funny thing about Tom Green, and I've told this story before in the Sugar and Coffee special, maybe the Claudia special, maybe I told them both. I can't remember. Those are 2 great episodes of this podcast where I really do a deep dive into Sugar and Coffee and Slumber Party, those 2 sketches. So go check those out. So the story goes, Tom Green had a great time on our show, but then somehow somehow he found out that there was another sketch called Sugar and Coffee that was just complete chaos, where the 2 hosts, me and Kyle, just chugged coffee and ate sugar and ran around like insane people. And the story goes that Tom Green was like, that's the sketch I want to be in. Why couldn't I be in that sketch? And they're like, oh, you can. Just come back next week. So the following week, Tom Green came back and was a guest star in Sugar and Coffee. And we didn't know what he was going to do. He was supposed to, as the script said, at the end of the Sugar and Coffee sketch, Tom Green enters, and that's it. And so all week we're rehearsing. We get to the end of the sketch, and our director was like, and then Tom Green's going to come in and do something, and we don't know, and then we'll cut. So the whole week we had no idea what Tom Green was going to do. And yeah, he was as chaotic as you can imagine. We finished the sketch, and then all of a sudden Tom Green like appears in the window.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sugar and Coffee lover, Tom Green!
And then he proceeds to just be insane on the set of Sugar and Coffee and scream and run around. And the like sheer look of terror on my face and Kyle's face when Tom Green enters the set and we have no idea what this man's going to do. And we're in front of a live audience and all the cameras are rolling. We have one take at this, one chance. Tom Green ain't gonna do it again. He's gonna do it once. And we're 15, 16, I'm not sure, somewhere in there. But it was super funny. And if you can find that sketch, maybe I'll play a clip of it if I can find it. But just that there's like a look of terror on my face, just like, with me and Kyle, just like, who is this man? It's so good. One of those great all that memories that I love thinking back on. But anyway, I'm sure I've gone too long. I just had a lot to say today. Thank you guys for supporting. Patreon is coming. Thank you for subscribing on Instagram. That supports me a lot. Thank you for buying merch in the shop. That also supports me a lot. But Patreon is coming. I'm getting it all set up. I'm going to do that soon. But really appreciate you guys coming back every week. And I hope this show still makes you smile, because that's all I want to do is make you guys laugh. Make you smile. That's all I care about. Love you guys. Bye. Hey, look, everybody. It's Kevin. Hey, Kevin's back. I'm done, dude. Episode's over. You missed it. Your call time was 30 minutes ago. Don't tell me you're going to jump up here. Don't tell me you're going to jump up here. Oh, now you want to be involved. Now you want to be involved. Oh, look at that. Now you want to host the show. Okay, I guess we're just gonna, let's just hold on him. Just get that camera. Let's just hold on him. Hold. Let's just see what he does. Oh, he's purring. Interesting. Buddy, the show's over. The show's over. Okay, I gotta be done now. Damn it, Kevin.